Mike Rogers in now. He's running for the Senate as a Republican in the state of Michigan, but has a long history of service in as a member of Congress. He was a special agent with the FBI, lieutenant in the U.S. Army, so he's joined us a number of times on issues related, especially to foreign policy. We know about Alexei Navalny and his death, but now you add all these issues up with Russia. The Wall Street Journal reporter we talked about earlier looks like he's going to be in jail for a lot longer. Now, this U.S. dual citizen, this young woman Nancy's talking about, has been detained. So, where's all this going? I mean, we thought maybe there'd be some sort of a negotiation to start bringing some of these people home, but is that stalled?
Well, what you see here is Putin is getting a little bit nervous about the pressure that he's receiving, probably not only externally, but some of the things that he's feeling inside the country. My understanding, there are dozens of folks inside Russia who are now being arrested, detained, or worse. They actually, I believe the Russians actually killed the pilot that defected to Ukraine early on in the war. He was living in Spain. There seems to be some mischief there surrounding his death. I will tell you that this is what happens when authoritarians are starting to be afraid of their own people, right? They start doing things exactly like this. I'm going to guess, because she has U.S. citizenship, this is someone that they'll try to bargain with on an exchange. We've seen this in the past, and unfortunately, when you put a high price on these people, that's what happens. People like this get scooped up for other purposes in Russia, but also to send a very clear message that anyone that messes with Vladimir Putin and Russia, including giving $50 to Ukraine, is gonna pay a heavy price for it.
Yeah.
This shows me that the pressure is getting to him.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the pilot story that you referenced, I did see those reports as well. So that's out there on top of everything else. I mean, some would say, big picture, this makes the argument that, we've got to get something done, we being the United States, on funding for Ukraine. What would you say to that? That, it keeps getting held up, or there's bills that don't get approved for one reason or another. And Ukraine seems to be in pretty dire straits, I guess, in their war with Russia. And then it doesn't look like the money's coming anytime soon.
Yeah, I do believe the administration has a responsibility for two things. One, what does victory look like in Ukraine? I have not heard one peep about anything that looks like a conclusion in Ukraine, number one. Number two, there needs to be accountability on the money. You can't just keep throwing money over the transom and hope something good happens. And I think the Biden administration spent a lot less time arguing about everybody's walking away and more time about convincing the American people why we're there, what it means for the national security of the United States, and why it's important. And listen, as someone who has a son in the military, I served. My son's fourth generation of military service in our family. I always think it's better to send bullets and missiles than it is sons and daughters in a place like this. And I think keeping Putin bottled up in Ukraine is a great way to do that. He goes into Poland or Lithuania or Latvia, we have a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I've heard
it doesn't forgive the idea that you have to have a plan to win this thing, and I just haven't seen it. So get that done, Mr. President. Go get that done with Congress, and you'll probably get your money.
No, I understood, but I mean, to your point that you were just saying there, talking about the argument for the money, essentially, what I've heard the president and others say is basically essentially what you were just outlining, is that if we don't do it, if we don't continue to help Ukraine, then Putin is really on the loose, and the next thing you know, he might keep going and march right into one of these NATO countries. So the reason essentially for doing it is so something even worse doesn't happen, right? So I mean, if you don't give them the money,
here's my point of this,
that could happen.
It doesn't give a pass for really bad policy, if no policy at all. Just using the consequence only without the path to get there, I think, is dangerous foreign policy. That's what I've seen out of the Biden administration. Remember when they said, oh, you can't have airplanes, that would cause World War III? Oh, right. I guess we're sending airplanes now. Oh, remember when they couldn't have long-range artillery, that would cause World War III? Oh, I guess we're sending them long-range artillery. That is no way to conduct operation to contain Vladimir Putin. And you can see what happens when the way that they've been doing it. It's not working. And so my argument is, make them come to the Congress with a plan. You want the money? You have to lay out a plan where most Americans can go, okay, I get it. Right now, I don't understand. I'm a national security guy. I've studied this thing for decades. I don't understand what their plan is for victory, other than
what would your
hurry
plan
up
be
and give us the money.
Just give it, in short, what would you say, if you just had to outline 2 or 3 things, said, if X, then Y, here's my plan, and then we're good for the money. What would it be?
Well, I would do a couple of things. First of all, what do they need for current sustainment operations? You got to get them that fast. And then what does victory look like? Is this going to be a mediated settlement? That means you're going to have to push Zelensky into negotiating in a place he may not want to go.
Right.
But that may be in the interests of the United States of America. They have to figure that out. Those folks who are in Washington today that say, hey, if we just pour it on, we're going to throw Russia out of all the areas that they are with only a military victory, do not understand where Russia is and where their mentality is. And my argument is you got to settle that within ourselves, what that looks like, including, by the way, a ceasefire that may contain no recognition of territory, but a further negotiation to get that territory back over time. Remember, Putin isn't going to be there forever.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.